This is Cryin and Dyin, episode 2.
Cause these are the best days. These are the best days. These are the best days of our lives.
Guys, welcome to episode 2. I am so excited to have you here with us for another exciting episode of Cryin and Dyin with me, Lizzie, and my cousin Adam.
Hey.
Thank you guys so much for all of the support, the kind messages, the comments, the DMs, the texts, all of the fun, wonderful support. You guys made our day. And wow, I think Adam and I are both just like overwhelmed with appreciation. And I really hope you guys keep the messages coming because that is probably like the most satisfying part is just hearing back from you guys.
I don't want to set any expectations, but I was just surprised that somebody listened. That was just cool to see and hear, and that nobody was like, this podcast is the worst. I'm okay with feedback, but I was like, I just don't want that feedback on episode 1.
Guys, we had the most positive feedback, and we were both very pleasantly surprised at like what a great listenership we had for our first episode. So if you think anything we say or do or whatever on this podcast is funny, like if there's like this episode is hopefully super relatable. I hope you share the heck out of this one. If it's relatable or just if you think a friend could use like an hour of happiness at their like cubicle job or like whatever, if this could brighten your day, please share it with a friend.
I love that you
With
said at their cubicle job. That's so funny because that's when I listen to podcasts or when I'm driving. Do you have a friend that has like a horrible commute?
exactly.
I mean, I don't even have a horrible commute, but that's when I listen to podcasts typically.
That's a great time to listen to podcasts is on a commute or like
Or when
maybe
I'm
you
in the
go on
shower.
like sure or like when you go on a weekend drive. Like my husband and I go on a drive like at least once a week, and sometimes we'll catch up on like a podcast or we like go on a walk or something. I don't know. Whenever it's a good time for you to have like an hour of happiness to enjoy with us.
Well, how was your week, Lizzie?
Oh my goodness. It's been good. Here's the real question you should be asking, Adam.
Okay, tell
What
me.
had us crying and dying this week?
Okay,
Oh
let's
my
start
goodness.
over. Hey, Lizzie, what had you crying and dying this week?
Oh my goodness. Two things. I don't care if I think it's funny and no if no one else thinks it's funny, that's fine. I don't care.
I think it's funny. I support
Uh,
it. I don't even know what it
you.
is.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Number one, I make a lot of smoothies and I recognized something about myself this week. It was a moment of self discovery. So, if anybody has a dog or knows that like dogs are afraid of vacuums, right? Like most of the time, like they cannot handle it. Okay, I am making my smoothie like normal, and I recognized about myself this week. I am terrified of my blender. The
Okay,
way a
I thought
dog
this
is
was going
afraid of a
another way.
vacuum.
I
No,
was
I
like,
didn't make a mess. I didn't do.
I thought we were going to be like, oh, I scared my dog with the vacuum. And I'm like, I didn't
No,
know that you had a dog. And I'm surprised I haven't
no,
heard the dog yet.
no. We don't have a dog. Oh my goodness. So I'm making this blender, and I also am like very like hearing sensitive. So I have Meniere's disease. And so like I'm very sensitive to loud noises, and but I also have like low frequency hearing loss. So there's like a lot of sounds I can't hear, but I'm also very like sensitive to loud things. So I'm like always wanting to like turn down the TV because I always think it's too loud, but it isn't really. So I think everything's too loud. But the blender like triggered me in such a way, like it just like I learned this week, I am afraid of the blender. That does not stop me from making the smoothies. And like I'm also super afraid of the blade. Like when I clean it, like and wash the blade, like I am so scared it's gonna cut me. I'm so like the whole thing I just approach with such trepidation. It's comical just to like see me alone in the kitchen interacting with this stupid blender.
So the last time I used a blender was when I lived in an apartment. Don't know what I was doing. I was putting the things in the thing and I went to push the
Hmm.
button and it went everywhere. I'm like, Adam, you have to put the top on it. You
Oh my
can't just
gosh.
blend. So that was the last time I used a blender and I think I threw it away.
Oh my God. But yeah, like it's loud. I can't get away. I'm in control of it. Maybe that's part of what freaks me out too, is I'm in like I signed up for this activity. I'm in control of it. I could just not do it, but I gotta have my smoothies this week. So
That's so funny. I have a question for you this week.
sure.
Another question. And I don't know how you're going to respond to it. So that's what even intrigues me even
Wonderful.
more. How do you feel about all the random celebrities that have moved to Wyoming over the past few years?
I have thoughts.
And like, they're big name celebrities. I'm not
Hmm.
saying I like them or like I'm a fan. Well, I mean, like Kanye West, obviously,
Hmm.
Jeffree Star.
I was gonna say Jeffree Star. And the third one I was gonna say is RuPaul's husband.
Yes. But they were there, they've been there a long time.
That's like a generational thing.
So how do you feel about it? Are they just like eye roll or are they it's just like no big
Um,
deal?
I don't think enough people in Wyoming know about Jeffree Star or RuPaul and his husband. I don't know of anybody who like really knows or like has strong opinions. I'm sure there are people like it. Okay, also to remind everybody, I live in South Dakota, but I grew up in Wyoming. So I'm not currently in Wyoming right now. I imagine there's probably like people in like the southeastern half of Wyoming who have thoughts and feelings about the ranch and all the land that RuPaul and his husband own because there's definitely like it's oil for sure,
Oh,
and that's
really?
like oh yeah, it's a big area for oil. So there's definitely like environmental factors, political factors. Like I'm sure there's people down there who have thoughts and feelings. So Kanye lives in like the northwestern corner of Wyoming, outside of Cody, Wyoming, and that's where we lived for a little while. And that's like the gateway to Yellowstone. So if you've ever been to Yellowstone, you have most certainly, if you've come from the eastern side of the country in any way, you've certainly passed through Cody, Wyoming, and it's super touristy in the summertime. I think there's like mixed, like some people are happy about the celebrity presence. There's always like Wyoming is very like the whole state is small town minded pretty much. So there's people who are like not happy. Like there will always be people unhappy about new people. It doesn't seem to have like an economic impact like Kanye living near Cody versus the like blocks of people going to Yellowstone. Like most people are there for Yellowstone and like no one really like sees Kanye like that much because he doesn't directly come into town. This is just secondhand from what I know from friends.
I was just thinking there was going to be people up in arms about it, but I
Yeah,
guess
there
like
are.
I don't know.
Are they
I
worth our time?
point made. Moving on. So in Des Moines this weekend is the Des Moines Dew Tour is in town. So this is like Mountain Dew.
Oh, the
Skate
drink?
yes, skateboarders from across the world are making their way to Des Moines for the 2021 Dew Tour for people that are coming to qualify for Olympic skateboarding. So we have this brand new skate park that literally opened like 2 weeks ago. Apparently, it's the largest in the country and is like one
Cool.
of the only Olympic qualifying skate parks. I, I'm
Interesting
apologize if I'm
location.
yeah, I'm apologize if I'm getting any of these facts wrong, but of all the places in the United States that you would think to have a skateboarding, it's so random in my head. It's just random.
That is really random. Like, why Des Moines?
It's in our downtown area as well.
Weird. That's interesting.
And it's actually like right along the river. So downtown Des Moines, there's a river that runs through. In my head, I'm thinking, what happens if skateboarding goes wrong and somebody just like skateboards into the river? That's really all I have to say about that. Good
I'm
story.
sure, well, I'm sure somebody drank some Mountain Dew and thought about it.
Apparently that I didn't know there was a Jew tour, but apparently this has been going on for like a hot minute, like several years.
Oh, how nice. Oh my goodness. I forgot to mention after my blender story, I have another funny, I don't know. I don't know if it's funny or not, but I was amused this week. I had an experience that I hope someone's surprised by. I'm 29 years old and I watched The Price is Right for the first time in my life this week,
Who are you?
right? So my husband works in a hospital and in the like waiting area in the department he works in. He works with like an elderly population and they insist on like whatever channel plays The Price is Right. And so he like watches it like it's just on in the background while he's working. He's been shocked and appalled for a long time that I've never seen it because sometimes he'd be like, "Oh man, there was something crazy that happened on Price is Right today." And I'm like, "Great, babe. I don't know what you're talking about." And he gets like jazzed up about it. Just for fun this week, he's like, "You want to watch The Price is Right?" And I was like,
That's
"I
so
don't really."
random.
Well, like I'd never seen it before, but wow, what? Like, I am so shocked by like how absurd people behave, like how pumped up they get. And I didn't watch any of the vintage episodes. Well, actually, we did watch one, and I was really shocked at like how Bob Barker interacted with women, and I got really angry, so we didn't watch another.
I could see
I
that.
I got really like
I'm surprised people haven't
fired up.
brought that up.
I was appalled at the way he was like. This was early when the show was like really new. And like they only called like women, like this whole episode only one guy got called down to participate, like all the contestants were women. And the way he just like talked to them, ugh, it was just disrespectful. Anyway, I was just so shocked at like how like absurd people behaved. They were so like hyped up and like excited in such an exaggerate, like everything was so exaggerated. All the guests like were just like really handsy with Drew Carey. Like the women were kissing him, the guys would like shake his hand 100 times, putting their hand on his shoulder. Like I think it's more of like people fangirling over Drew Carey and wanting like ridiculous materialistic items in their life than
Like a
anything
new
else.
refrigerator or a washing machine, like weird stuff.
Best Buys. Yeah, I saw a lot of prizes. I was like, this is a no-name brand and you're excited about this. I was just surprised like at what like they did. Some of the games I like totally like knocked it out of the park. So on like my
Did
first
you win?
exposure this week, I won big time this week. I won like $100,000. I won like at least two cars. I won a lot of things this week in my mind. And
Okay.
like suddenly, I'm not saying I love the show, but I am saying that like I
There's
did
something.
enjoy I did enjoy like the absurdities, the wild behavior, and I was surprised to like see how much I know about like the price of just groceries.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Because they're like, how much is this peanut butter?
Mm-hmm.
And, or is this peanut butter more expensive than, I don't know, insert
Then
another
this like
item?
body wash, yeah.
Yeah.
And I will say, if you're watching The Price is Right and they're playing that game about the groceries, always pay attention to how many ounces. Like the picture is deceiving, seeing them all lined up, but the ounces, when they tell you the ounces, that is what will tell you how expensive. Like 9 ounces of body wash versus 20 ounces, like that's a
Mm-hmm.
big price difference. Or like a 50 pack of Splenda versus a 200 pack of Splenda. Big price difference. This is probably a good opportunity to like segue into our topic for the day, which we are pretty excited about. This is not a one and done. Like we're gonna often bring this up. But guys, we're gonna go down the rabbit hole of nostalgia today. Buckle up.
I'm so excited.
I'm excited too. You and I both have identified we're very nostalgic people, specifically for like very like late 80s, 90s, early 2000s. Oh my goodness, millennials today. This episode is for you and no one else.
So, when I was thinking about this, I did a little research, and please don't think this is like the facts. This was an opinion article with some fact behind it. And I hadn't even thought this way about nostalgia, but it was titled Nostalgia is Missing the Past Good or Bad for You?
Mm.
And I could, when I read that, I was like, oh, I hadn't really ever thought of it that way. I've always pictured nostalgia with like a positive meaning.
Hmm.
But some people like just live in the past and like can't move forward. And I was like, oh,
Hmm.
I hadn't thought of it that way. I would think, I don't know what word I would associate with that, but that's just
Hmm.
not what I had pictured it with.
Sure.
I don't really have much to share about this article, but when you're being nostalgic, more or less like just don't live in the past and never move forward in life. That was basically the point of the article.
I think it's great. It revealed to me, I read the article. I thought it was good because that is a good question to ask. Like, is nostalgia like healthy or not? And it reminded me that I am one of those people that has a tendency occasionally to like dwell on the past, which is something I am growing through in my mental health journey.
Yeah,
Um,
it's easy to do.
it's very easy to do, but I also like told myself like if like looking back on like nostalgia, I think is like fond memories of like person, people, places, and things. And if it brings you joy, then I think like dive into that. That's totally fine. But if you're kind of going in like an unhappy, like ruminating, dwelling on um negative, if it's a negative experience, then maybe we could label it unhealthy or
It just sounded like don't live in a fantasy,
sure.
and be connected to the now to a degree. I mean, it's okay to, think about the past, and especially some of the things we're going to talk about. It's just like a different time in our lives, and it just brings different feelings like, oh, that was a happy time.
Mm-hmm.
Not that now is bad, but it's just like that's how I think nostalgia. Like when I use that word, that's what comes to my
Mm-hmm.
mind.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Everywhere I go, I feel so alive. Yeah.
Hey, it's Adam. I wanted to tell you about a service I've been using for over 10 years called Audible. Audible is the world's largest producer and provider of spoken word entertainment and audiobooks. I've been a member for about 10 years and have listened to hundreds of books. As someone with ADHD, Audible has given me a way to connect with books in a different way. One of the best things about reading is that you get to feel something that isn't your own experience. Audible gives that plus a little more. Even if you're not a person who reads often, you will still enjoy this service. As a listener of Cryin and Dyin, we wanted to offer our listeners a chance to try Audible for free for 30 days. To take advantage of this offer and to learn more, go to cryinanddyin.com/audible. That's cryinanddyin.com/AUDIBLE audible. Audible is truly one of the best services I have and think you'll enjoy it as well. Now back to the show.
I'm happy head to toe. I'm in overdrive. It's alright.
So, Adam, do you want to take a minute to explain our like made up nostalgia game today?
Yes, so this is how it works. If the item or just like whatever we mention, if it brings you nostalgia, you get 1 point.
And the points don't matter today, folks. The points don't get you anything. We just want to see like what resonates with you. You can participate if you want. You don't have to.
You don't win a car, don't win a new
Refrigerator
yeah,
or a trip to Tahiti or
you
his and
don't
hers Vespas.
you don't win a blender. You win knowing that you're nostalgic and that we care.
I think the true prize at the end of this is joy.
Yes. So let's start with item one. Silly putty in the little red egg.
I was gonna say, let's get specific. It was always a red egg.
Yes. I don't know that I necessarily had silly putty in a little egg,
Hmm.
but I definitely knew what that was.
It confused me as a kid. Like, why is the egg red and why is the putty like a nude color? Like, why is it this beige? This is a fun kid's toy. Like, make it cool. And why an egg? Why brown putty?
I,
Why does
I,
it smell weird? Why do my hands feel weird?
I don't know, ma'am. I just work here. Next item, Scholastic book fairs.
Were they a thing for you in your school?
Oh, yeah.
I always felt as a kid it was cool, but I don't recall ever like having cash on hand at school. Like I think it was just something like if something was to be purchased, my mom was going to do it, or we would just order from a book order. That what I think brought me a little bit more joy was the book order because you could take your time. And I always felt like as a kid, there wasn't enough like selection. There wasn't enough variety. Like I always, and maybe it's because it was a small town in Wyoming, but I always felt like the book fair had like a pretty small selection compared to, I don't know, a bookstore.
I don't know. We had a pretty big library at my school. I don't really remember buying anything. Like, I just remember, like, oh, that was a thing. And I don't know if that's
Hmm.
a thing today.
Right? I think for me, there is a greater satisfaction in book orders and like library. I thought that was good enough for me. So
Yeah.
book fairs were fun, but like I wasn't hyped for them as much.
Interesting. All right. Next item, Tamagotchi slash Gigapets.
Gigapets. Okay, how many did you have? What color? Like, give me the situation.
I didn't know what Tamagotchi was. And then I looked at it. I was like, oh, I had a
Hmm.
Gigapet.
I also had a Gigapet. I did not have a Tamagotchi.
I don't remember. I had a couple of them, and I know we all got in trouble for having them, like at some point bringing them to school. But you had to feed your pet. What do you, or
So
it would die.
important.
So I don't know.
Do you remember like what like your Gigapet was? Like what was the like what
I don't
animal it was?
remember. And then,
Mine.
like, what happened to it? When did I stop feeding it?
Mine.
You still have yours?
Blue table behind me. It's in the drawer. That blue tape.
That's so funny.
It's black and it is Salem the cat, like from Sabrina the Teenage Witch. I'm pretty sure that was the only one at the store that day because I very vaguely remember my mom took me to the store, probably wouldn't shut up about it, and she probably let me get it just to like shut me up because I wanted it so bad. And like I played with it all the time. I thought it was pretty fun. You feed the cat and like I think if it ate enough food, it like presented you with a trophy or there was like a trophy if it like pooped or something.
Yeah, I remember that. I wasn't going to say it.
Oh, it's fine. We're
you,
all adults here.
you had to, like, clean up after it, basically.
Yeah. And I loved giving, I don't remember any of the names. It was probably just like names of my friends, but like I loved giving it names. I loved that it was like black and the buttons were pink. I loved clipping it onto my backpack. I just loved the feeling of interacting with this silly made up cat. And I just thought it was really fun. I would be joyful to put batteries in that thing again, keep it here at my desk.
All right, that's your mission for the next week. That's
Not a
your
bad idea.
next item, cassette tapes. And then I put dash recording from radio illegally, allegedly.
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 Mhm.
Nobody is going to be convicted or confess any crimes on this podcast.
Mhm.
I don't really have much to talk about. Just,
It was fun.
yeah. I don't know if you had this, but next item, Channel 1 News in your school.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. I thought it was super cool. One of the anchors, like from when we were a kid, he's like on the regular news now. Have you noticed that?
That would be a no from me.
What? Okay, I don't have TV and I don't have news, but I do recognize the name Seth Doan. He was the blonde guy. He was super cool. I don't know. And then there was another guy. I think his name was Errol Barnett. Those were the two names I remembered of like anchors from Channel One, and I thought it was okay. I didn't understand as a fifth grader how it was the day's news, but I saw the librarian that ran it. There was like a little room by the like office of the school, and I saw one day the librarian. It was like every day delivered on a cassette, like a VHS. I was baffled by it. I thought Channel One News was cool, but like the delivery is what was always a mystery to me. How in the early 2000s were they delivering this?
For
Like,
me, this was late 90s.
okay, fine. But like,
So,
how
did
were they
your
delivering it? Like, did they just mail a cassette to the school every day? Did they batch record? But it was the news, so it was like
yeah,
real. Of course, it seemed like daily. I am just baffled. Like, how did this technology happen in my school?
I think it will be a mystery. Did your Channel
That's
1
cool.
TV just turn on when it was time? That was a thing in our school. The TVs just automatically turned on and turned off
Like they
when
were all
Channel
synced.
1. It was really weird.
My school was in like a really, really old building, and the TVs were pretty old, and they were like attached to the ceiling on
Yep,
like an
so were
arm, like a
ours.
metal arm. But I feel like it was like a classroom job that one of the tall kids would always be in charge of turning it on, I think.
All right. Wouldn't have been the tall kid, so
Me either,
um,
honey.
moving on to our next item, floppy
Hmm.
disks.
If you know, you know.
So floppy disk can be, we can talk about this in a couple of pieces because it could really age somebody. A floppy disk,
That's
I'm
fine.
thinking like early 90s, like you put it in a computer and it was literally floppy and it was probably like 5 by 7 ish size. I'm like using weird measurements.
Closer to like 4 by 4.
Okay. But
Whatever.
then later they came out with the other floppy drives. I don't know why they called them that.
Hmm.
And they were smaller and they weren't
Hmm.
floppy. Like you wouldn't wave
The
them in your
floppy
hand.
part was inside it.
Oh, the memory. But I just remember in elementary school, you'd have to get the floppy disk and put it in, and then turn the computer on, and then the Oregon Trail would play. I also remember the floppy disk in middle school. So this would be like I typed something at home, but we didn't have a printer or something maybe,
Hmm.
and you'd have to put it on the floppy disk to take it to school.
To print it.
Yeah, or like that was my saving method.
Wow. Wow. By the time I required something like that, I think we had moved on to USB.
Oh,
Sorry, bro.
yeah, no, not me. I definitely remember having lots of floppy disks because they were only like 1 megabyte of storage, I think.
That's so
Our
sad.
podcasts, like 1 minute of our podcast would not fit on this floppy disk.
Oh my gosh. I had an MP3 player that had like 1 gig, or like it had like 1 or 2 gigs. And I thought that was so rotary phones.
Oh my gosh. Well, first of all, do you know what that is?
Honey, yes. We never had one in our house. And I didn't have anybody in my life that like had one that I could like check out or like play with, but I'm like I think the only time I saw rotary phones when I was little was like in hotels, I think.
If we have listeners that don't know what a rotary phone is, a rotary phone didn't have buttons. This was a landline phone. If you wanted to dial a four, you had to put your finger where the four is, and then it would spin around, and then you'd let go, and it would spin back, and somehow it
Mm.
knew that you'd pressed four.
But this sounds like a fun game. Just I would call people just because the action of the rotary would just be fun.
We didn't use a rotary phone, but I know we had one. Like, why would we have a rotary phone? Because most of the 90s weren't rotary phone times.
Right. It was that in between. So, like, I feel like the phone we had when I was a kid was the in between zone, like, not a digital landline. It was still like attached to the wall. And when I was little, it had like a red light on it, like a tiny red light when it hung on the wall. And I would wake up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom as like a little kid. And I always thought it was a mean flamingo standing at the end of the hallway, like making a mean face. And I was always scared to go to the bathroom in the dark when I was little because I thought it was a mean flamingo at the end of the hallway, even though I knew it was the phone. But at nighttime, it was a mean flamingo.
That's really random. Next item, throwaway cameras.
Mm, my favorite. I threw away a lot of cameras. Hmm.
Or no, they were disposable cameras. I don't know why am I
Hmm.
calling it a throwaway camera. I guess that's just what I
Call
called
them
it.
that.
You'd have to take you would take your pictures and then you wouldn't know if they were good or not. You may have gone on a vacation and none of your pictures turned out because you left the camera in the car and it got too hot or something.
My mom always let me get a throwaway camera every time we had a school field trip. I could have a disposable camera. I could take it on the trip and I could take pictures. And a lot of the pictures I took as a kid, like I have a whole box of just like second grader quality photos.
And you would have to turn the flash on and you'd have to
Mhm.
wait for it to like charge.
And you'd hear it go.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And then you take your picture and then you have to move the film essentially. You'd have to turn the dial so the
Mm-hmm.
film would go to the next film thingy on the
Mm-hmm.
inside.
Yep. Good times.
That's really interesting. I wish I could still have a throwaway camera. I don't know what I'd do with it and I don't know where I would take it to get
Mm.
developed. So that's a problem.
I think you could go to Walgreens. I remember the way they smelled too, and that like told me like I'm gonna have a good day today. I have a fun cold lunch packed. I'm going on a field trip, and I have my throwaway camera. The next nostalgic topic: boy bands, girl bands. You know you have. There's one specifically you are very loyal to. Out people of the internet. I know you all have one that you're very loyal to. So let's.
I have a lot of things to say about this.
I'm ready.
Okay. I feel like back in the day, I don't know how these bands were successful because I feel like you couldn't admit that you were a fan of them.
Oh, I wasn't afraid, but
Oh,
I was younger than you. I was a fourth grader when In Sync was the
big.
hot stuff. Yes.
Okay. I just feel like I was never able to admit that I loved all of them until I was an adult. Oh, so what year? It was a couple years ago. I went to a Backstreet Boys concert.
I forgot you did that.
Oh my gosh.
I saw pictures of you at the. I was jealous. Oh, I
It
forgot
was
about that.
it was larger than life. Did you catch that?
Yes, I did.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Wow.
It was so good. I cannot tell you. You can tell that it wasn't like a lip sync concert
Mm-hmm.
and
They
like
were
they can
being
still
real.
sing.
Wow.
And they're all not super young. I mean, they're not like 80, but
Right.
well, it was like the full light dance show. Like it
Do they
was
dance for every song?
in some capacity, whether that's just a sway and the slower
Oh,
songs or
or like sitting on like cute little like stools and being
yeah,
like
it was
moody.
definitely like everything was
Mm.
thought out very much. It was so good. It was a last minute decision my friend and I made to go. It was totally worth it. The other concert from a boy band was Hanson that I saw, I think in
Oh,
2018.
that's very cool.
It was so good. I can't believe I'm even like going there. Who
I'm
would have
happy for
thought
you.
Who would have thought I would have had so much fun at a Hanson concert as an adult? Like,
Oh, yay.
it was at our amusement park and it was in October for like Oktoberfest. I was sober because I don't really drink and it was not, I'm just picturing it in my head. It wasn't in a venue. It was like in between the Ferris wheel and like something else. Like, it's just
Just
so
in the
weird.
open.
Yeah. But they're musicians. I don't think we
Mhm.
realized back in the day, these kids were like musicians and songwriters and singers. Those are like very big things.
They're more than just a pretty face on a poster or a t-shirt.
The other one that I specifically wrote out was Spice Girls.
Hmm.
I loved the Spice Girls.
Which Spice Girl were you?
Oh, I don't know.
Hmm.
What did you
Which
have
one
one?
was like yours? I wasn't allowed to like the Spice Girls because I grew up so very conservatively. I also wasn't allowed to like the Backstreet Boys because they like
Yeah.
had a little darker aesthetic and they were just a little like too mature for my like fourth grade ness. But I was allowed to like NSYNC. So I did. So I'm still obsessed with Justin Timberlake's ramen noodle vibes. Like that blonde perm, like I still love it. I know it's silly, but it makes me really happy.
That's so
As for
funny.
which Spice Girl, I remember there was a girl in my class that had like a folder with pictures of the Spice Girls, and I was so scared of Scary Spice because she had a tongue ring, and that was wild and spooky. I liked the British one, Posh, Was she Posh Spice? What did we call her?
I wasn't that big of a fan that I didn't know their names.
Well, I guess they're all British, but
I think they were more popular sooner than we all knew them.
yeah, maybe, yeah. I like
Because,
Destiny's Child too a little bit.
oh
That
yeah,
Survivor music video that just like spoke to my heart in a way that no one else was.
or like your Matchbox 20, like that was like kind of a sound. It
Mhm.
wasn't necessarily I would call like a boy band, but that was definitely like very 90s.
They were gonna play. There's at least one song at the school dance for sure.
Oh yeah. Well, that good memory is a great time for us to take a quick break. We will be right back.
So follow if you're dead, and you'll see the light shine so bright.
As total newbies in the podcasting world, Anchor has made it super easy and efficient for us to co-host the Cryin and Dyin podcast from 2 different parts of the country. With Anchor, we had our podcast up and running within a week. We are super impressed with how easy our podcasting experience has been with Anchor.
If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. The best part about it is it's free. They're creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
Thanks for tuning in. Now let's get back to the show.
Clear those clouds away. I can feel the sun. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, guys, welcome back. Thanks for hanging out for the break. Let's dive into the next nostalgic topic. I mean, I can mention the next one, Game Boy. We didn't have them. Video games weren't really a thing in our house growing up, but I saw kids have them, and I just didn't like it. Looked cool, but as a kid, I was like, I didn't totally get the appeal. But I understand how my husband's very nostalgic about Game Boys and Nintendo, like
Yeah,
very nostalgic about it.
Game Boys were originally black and white, and then they came out with like Game Boy Color, and that was a big
I
thing.
remember the obsession about the color.
I remember you had to put AA batteries in them, and they were like bricks.
Oh my
They were really
gosh.
big.
I wonder how much parents spent on batteries just for those silly things.
Ugh, I just like think back, like, how did our parents afford all of these like silly
Right?
things? But I guess our
Mm-hmm.
parents have some new thing now. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
what that is,
Yeah.
but all the Nintendo games, like the games were like
Mhm.
$50. That was a lot of money then, let
Oh my
alone
gosh.
now. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Oh, I think
I
I knew that. That's crazy.
Next item, I don't know. This is just kind of the weird geeky side of me that even knows what this is. A lot of you probably won't
You
know.
might be alone with this one.
Yeah. Do you remember what Netscape Navigator was?
Barely.
This was like
Barely.
the OG web browser. This was the only web browser you had. This was like in school on like
Mm-hmm.
your Mac PC
Mm-hmm.
or
The
PC, Mac PC.
colored Mac PC. Remember the ones that were all the colors?
Yeah. I had a friend that had one and I was so jealous. I really wanted one and I never did get it.
I work from home and I would be joyful. Like if it could be up to today's standards, I would love a colored Mac just to have one. It would look so cool in my office.
Yeah, they're like everything has to be stainless steel now. I'm like, ugh, or black or
Right?
something. All
Hmm.
right. This next one, I would insert this sound, but I think it's probably copyrighted, and we'd probably
Hmm.
go to podcast prison. You've
Internet
got
jail.
mail. Do you know what that means?
I
Like,
know I never personally experienced it, but I understand the feeling, the vibes,
that's such
the
a shame.
the whole thing. I know.
Funny, and I think this is kind of funny. My grandparents actually had a computer in the internet before I had it at my house.
Hmm.
So my grandparents had AOL back in the day, and because
Yeah.
they had AOL, I had an AOL account. And it
Mhm.
was like so exciting when I was there and I'd like get to hear it live. Like, oh, somebody sent me an email.
Yay! Why did you
Anyways,
need an email as a child?
why not?
Why not? Who's emailing you?
I honestly, probably somebody that's listening to this podcast, let's be honest.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
I don't even know. I'm
That's fine.
like, who was emailing me? That's a great
I think
question.
when I had my first email account, it was just other kids in my class, like, and they would just send you those like forward those chain emails, like,
Oh,
if you love Jesus, you
yes.
need to share this. And I was like, oh, I love Jesus so much. Of course, I must share this. And I would.
Or you'll have bad luck for the rest of your life or
Hmm.
something.
Yep.
Those forwarded emails, that's like a whole line item.
That was like, there's like a culture. I think that's it still happens. There's people who still fall for it. People you and I both know and love.
I don't get email really other than advertisement stuff,
Mm.
emails that I don't read, or it's like from you or something about
I
this
all
podcast.
I for my business, I have two emails and I love that I do this. Like the email that like is associated with my website, that's like important like correspondence. Like I check that inbox at least twice a day. And then the Gmail account I use for my business is where like all of my like memberships and subscriptions go to. So like, paying for Zoom and my accounting
Yeah.
stuff and whatever. All of that goes to a separate email. Then I have one that's just like personal for when I buy something from Old Navy.
Did you have Gmail, or do you remember Gmail when you had to be invited from somebody to join Gmail?
That's fancy. No, I am from, but I was pretty obsessed with Hotmail only because you had a Hotmail and I knew nothing about email, but I knew that when I was a cool teenager,
That's so
I wanted
funny.
to be just like you and have a Hotmail account. And you can bet I had, I can think of four Hotmail accounts.
Oh
And
yeah.
then
Like why did we
I went
why
to
did we
Gmail.
need all of these Hotmail accounts?
And it had to be like the coolest, most unique name ever. My first, oh gosh, it's so embarrassing. I should share it. It's so
Please do.
stupid. Oh my gosh, guys. Okay, my first Hotmail account. Do you want to know what it was? The name?
Yes, I'm anxiously waiting.
Oh my gosh. I'm so embarrassed. Okay, I'll just say it. Okay. I was obsessed with the 1995 hit by DC Talk. It's a youth group favorite, my friends, by DC Talk. It's called Jesus Freak. And I loved that song and I thought it was wonderful.
Wait, your email
So
was like
that's
Jesus freak?
wait, there's more. I um in another life when I was 13, I participated in a like Christian um performing arts missionary experience called the Young Continental Singers. Google it. I don't think they're touring anymore.
I
And
think I
I was
knew
on this
this.
tour. I'm sure you did. Some of our relatives came and watched one of my performances. It was a 6 week long thing where I toured the country singing and evangelizing, and it was a good experience. It was very good for someone like me from the middle of nowhere to have so many wonderful experiences. But everybody else that was in my group, in my tour, they were all like kids who weren't from Wyoming. And they repeatedly, frequently, always told me like they were always so shocked at the things I didn't know or I'd never been to, I'd never seen, all the things I hadn't like ever experienced. So they always said that I was like I lived under a rock and that I was from under a rock. So my
I mean,
first Hotmail
technically you kind of
account
did.
was called, I know. I'm not ashamed. I don't mind. I'm happy about like how I
No,
grew up.
I'm like
Yeah.
referring to the mountains.
Right. Okay, yeah, fair enough. Yeah, fair enough. Oh my goodness. So my first, buckle up, you guys. My first Hotmail account was Jesus Freak underscore under a rock at hotmail.com.
Oh, that's precious.
Woo!
So, do you want to know what mine? I don't remember all of it, but oh gosh. So, I don't even know where this came from completely, But my best friend, we've known each other, and I know she's a listener, so hey.
Hey.
Um, we like went to daycare together, or it was more of like a
Oh,
babysitter. Like, so we've
in-home
known, like,
daycare.
yeah, we've literally
Mhm.
like known each other our entire lives, and then we like went to elementary school together and all that. Her
Sweet.
parents had this thing with like Pepsi memorabilia. So I don't know why, but my first account was like Pepsi boy underscore and like some number.
What? Pepsi? Please tell me you spelled boy B-O-I.
No, 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 no. It was
Oh,
BOY.
bummer. Okay.
And me and my friend, we used to be in like random chat rooms. I don't even want to talk about that because that's embarrassing. But
We can save chat rooms for another time because I have a lot of thoughts.
so silly. That's all I have to say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I had an Gmail account when Google was like a brand new thing and you had to be invited by somebody. So
That's
sorry.
bougie.
I know.
Mm.
That's the story of my life is bougie. So
Yay.
let's go back. Listen, I kind of sorry I got on this little like tangent about email, but
It was a good one.
Y2K. Do you
Hmm.
remember about how crazy people were?
I remember the grown-ups freaking out, and I was like, guys, this is so dumb. Everything's fine. And I was like I think I was in the second grade. Yeah, I was just kind of like, why are the grown-ups freaking out? Like computers are just like computers. It's fine. It's not gonna like I was like pretty chill about it as a kid. And I just remember grown-ups freaking out.
I can't believe people wrote computer programs with dates and they didn't think of what would happen after 1999. Like, that's really what it was about. The things that ran the world. As somebody in the tech industry, like, you have to think of all the things that are going to break your program. And I feel like that was like missed by everybody. I just
That's
don't
great.
understand. But I don't know. It was a different time. I remember people bought like generators and like food, and they like hoarded food. It's just so weird.
That would have been a great time to buy stocks. Hmm.
I
Me
remember
in second grade, why didn't I do that? Why didn't I buy stock as a second grader? You know?
I remember watching the New Year's Eve things around the world and the countries that flipped to midnight before us. I'm like, oh, the world didn't end. So I had like probably some anxiety about this because I was that kind of person.
Oh,
And then when ours came around and it was midnight and it was just like any other day.
were your parents awake like with you for the ball drop? Like how did
Probably.
your I don't remember my parents saying or doing anything. Like I just remember it being on the news. Like did your parents like do anything about it?
No, my parents didn't buy extra food. We did not have a generator. I don't know if we had a computer.
It
So,
was
like,
just another holiday in Iowa.
it really was. Our next item I can't relate with, but
That's fine.
butterfly hair clips.
Yes.
How
Oh
many did
my
you
gosh.
have?
Mine, I don't remember well enough to make like the headband of like so
All
like
the
you would
clips.
the clips. So I'm gonna guess I had like 6 to 8 maybe. And mine were iridescent. They smelled like lead paint. They were spectacular, but boy, did they hurt your head if like you got bumped or something because it was just like you might as well
It's
have
like,
had like thorns or spikes on your head.
I mean, it's
They
kind
were
of like
so pokey.
a bobby pin almost. Like on
Probably
your, like,
flat. And they don't
well,
like they're not that big of a deal.
that's
But
true.
the butterfly hair clips, I would like divide my head into sections. Like I'm pretty sure the first time I saw it, it was on like a Disney Channel movie. Because I was obsessed with the fashion in Disney Channel movies. I was obsessed with the Mary Kate and Ashley fashion, and I'm pretty sure like Britney Spears had her hair in butterfly hair clips once. And so I like you divide your hair up into like 6 or 8 sections in the front, but I had bangs, so there'd be like the like spiky like
I can like
back
picture
end of the
this.
bang. things, but like I didn't do a good job. Like I was excited about it, but like it was not done well. I was a child, but I was so happy to like do little twists in my hair and do the hair clips and oh my gosh, just yes, everything about the butterfly hair clips.
That's funny. I'm gonna have you do the next one because I don't even know what this is.
Really? You were totally like this, like I'm sure like this would have been on like when you were a kid. Okay, it's on PBS, you guys. I wonder, I know they ran this for years. It was called Zoom, and it was on at 4 o'clock. You get home from school, you get your snack, and you watch Zoom. And it was educational and always like the things that I loved as a kid that like had a hook for me, like the TV show Out of the Box, Zoom, American Girl magazine. There was crafts. There was art projects. That is what would hook me. So they would do like science experiments. They'd do recipes, they would do crafts, they would do games, and like it was on PBS and it was like listener supported, but like the content they had on the show was like this science experiment was sent to us by this kid so and so in like whatever part of the country. And it would be like fun games and the like recipes whenever they'd like make something, all the food they'd take the brand labels away and print their own. So that way it was because it wasn't like brand sponsored or anything because it was PBS. And I just love that the kids were like normal kids in a t-shirt, like nothing fancy. They were just kids like me doing crafts on TV. I was like hooked. I loved it. It made me very happy.
Sorry, I'm laughing. We this is where I don't know you that well because we didn't know each other, and just kind of bringing the podcast back to our kind of how it all started. We live very different lives. That's all I have to
That's
say.
fine.
I was definitely not watching PBS after school. I
You were on
would.
AOL.
You're funny. We didn't have the internet for so long. I would have to go to like the public library and check my email,
Mm,
and you'd have to
so
like
cool.
reserve the computer.
Hmm.
Like you have to
Wait in
call
line.
ahead, and then they came out with this law that you had to be 13 to like basically be on the internet.
Oh, yeah.
I don't even know what, like there's still like whenever you sign up for something and it asks for your birth date, that's really what they're trying to make sure is you're over 13, not because they really care about your birth date.
Right.
And I remember when I'd have to then go back to my accounts and change my birth date because I wasn't 13,
That's great.
allegedly. Because I don't know if I'm
Allegedly.
breaking a law, but I remember more of after school TV is like Nickelodeon kind of
Hmm.
stuff, like a little more cable-y than a
Oh,
PBS.
sure.
But
Sure.
also, especially in the summer, I was always watching inappropriate things like,
Jersey Shore.
no, girl, we got to go back a couple years.
Sorry.
Like just the talk shows of the 90s. So like
Oh,
Jenny
yeah.
Jones, Ricky Lake, Sally Jesse Raphael or whatever her name
Oh
is with the
my
big red glasses
gosh. Uh-huh.
and all and I mean you can put in like your Maury and
Hmm.
Jerry. Those were I didn't
Hmm.
wasn't as huge of a fan of those.
Jerry was like more daytime, I feel like.
Yeah, and I
Hmm.
think Sally was too. But Ricky Lake and Jenny Jones, they were very much afternoon, and I don't know
Hmm.
what it was about those shows, but
It was a juicy
it was just
drama.
fascinating. It was like I don't even know, but this is where our lives were probably very different, and I was not watching
Fine.
PBS. Or
That's
it would
fine
be
with me.
like later as I'm like 12, MTV shows because we had cable. That was like one of
Hmm.
these weird things that we've always had. And I go back, I'm like, how did you afford all of these things? Like
Ah,
we were not poor, but we were definitely
sure.
not wealthy,
Right.
and all these things costed so much money. MTV, like Real World,
Oh
or Road Rules, like those shows, like
my gosh.
Yeah,
Earlier this year I watched the reruns of it was like a reunion of like Road Rules and other ones. It was called The Challenge. And my husband made fun of me the whole time. He's like, "This is so dumb. You shouldn't be watching this. This is crap."
it was
But
so
it
good.
made me so happy because the drama was so juicy. Oh, oh my gosh. Sorry. I had an MTV moment. I always felt like such a naughty kid when like I got to stay home alone. You bet I was watching MTV and all the bad words they'd bleep out. I thought I was like living on the edge. I was like a cool, mature teenager now, and I just thought I was super cool.
Yeah, I watch a lot of things that my parents probably didn't know I watched.
I think that's the
I
case
don't
with
know.
every kid. Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. Adam and I have been working hard to provide listeners like you with a fun, high quality experience that you can enjoy each time you tune into an episode of Cryin and Dyin. If you have been enjoying our show and want to personally impact the growth of our production, would you please consider becoming a sponsor of the show? Cryin and Dyin is currently funded by just us, Adam and Lizzie. To allow us to continue to produce this show and to grow it even further, we would be so grateful to have your support, even if it's as simple as $1 per month. For details and to get started, visit cryinanddian.com and click on the support tab. Thank you so much for listening. Now let's get back to the show.
There's magic in the air, and it feels so right. Yeah, yeah.
And also, you're gonna do this next one because
Oh my gosh, I'm
I
taking
don't
this
know.
next one.
I don't know what
It's
this
okay.
means.
If you can't relate, that's fine. It's totally fine. Ladies, if you were a kid in the early 2000s, call me because I know that you were probably just as obsessed with the Disney Channel original movie Xenon, Girl of the 21st Century, as me. Oh my gosh, the hair, the outfits, the made up slang, the like, I thought everything about Xenon. It was so cool. The like like cute guy was like the Australian singer. It was like a Disney Channel original movie about a girl who lives on a space station in like 2020 or like 2030. And it was like
Yeah,
mega
I don't know what any of
futuristic.
this is like,
It's
but I
on
definitely
Disney
knew what
Plus.
like Lizzie McGuire. That was probably like later
This was
though.
just a little before that, like just a few years.
Okay.
Yeah, this was just a few years before Lizzie McGuire. Oh my gosh, guys, Xenon, like I wanted her hair. I wanted to say all of her catchy phrases like Cetus Lapidus or like this is drama major. Like I wanted to say like I wanted to be just like her. I wanted like she had the butterfly hair clips but like more futuristic style so they were like springs or like spirals and like everything she had was metallic and they had like cute makeup and the hairstyles were like really zany and weird and I was like all on board with like a weird hairstyle as a kid because I'm a Enneagram 4 and that's the individualist and I just desperately wanted to just show everybody how unique I am. Everything about Xenon, girl of the 21st century, it like just spoke to my like fourness. So if you are listening to this episode, you watched that movie and you obsessed over it too, please DM me, call me, text me, honey, let's talk. It was my obsession.
Do I need to be like Googling this to like understand? I just don't feel like I'm gonna understand.
No, I think even if you watch, so you can watch it, like it's on Disney Plus if you wanted to like watch it as like a throwback moment. But if you don't love it, that's okay. That's
Yeah.
fine. And they called the sequel Xenon the sequel. It was
Oh
very
Lord.
good.
I can't. This is where
Oh,
people that don't connect, they're probably like, oh my gosh, will they move on? Maybe
okay,
that's
fine.
just
We'll
me.
move on.
Maybe that's my.
Sorry.
I'm like, I don't know what any of this is.
It's totally
um,
fine.
next item, chunky highlights slash frosted tips. I feel like you didn't probably
Love
color your
it.
hair.
I have never in my life colored my hair ever. But I've like wanted to. I
Really?
loved like for boys, I loved the look of frosted tips. I thought I was going to like my future boyfriend was going to like wear a puka shell necklace, a tank top, and frosted tips. Like I
We need
really
to get
thought that
Dylan on
was.
here and see if he can connect with this.
I've asked him about it before, and he like he did do fun hairstyles. As his mom was a hairstylist, so he did like color his hair when he was little, and but he never did the spiky hair. I don't think he ever did frosted tips. But I've like we've talked about it. I've wanted to get him on board, but I don't think in his field of work that
Yeah.
would be well received.
The other thing I had was like this really nasty jelly kind of stuff. And it was like temporary hair
Nice.
color. And it was blue. And I did that a couple times, but it was
Very
so
cool.
gross. It's like, I just think of it. It's like, it was like thick and nasty. Like,
But did you feel cool?
oh, of course. I mean,
Good.
I don't, I think so. I don't know. And then the other thing, when I'm thinking of that time period was like sun in hair, like lightener.
Oh
You know what that
yeah.
is?
Hmm.
My friend that I mentioned earlier who's listening, hey, again, I think she introduced me to this, but that stuff is like really, really, really bad for your hair.
You might as well bleach your hair.
Oh, it was like worse than that, but because you had to put heat on it, hence the name Sun In,
Oh, I didn't know that part. Mm.
because you would spray it and then you'd go in the sun, hence, and yeah, it's not great.
Oh, I thought it just ended at like the spray. Oh my
No,
gosh.
that it started at the spray.
That was only the beginning.
Yeah, and it like I don't like how did it stop lightning? It just like
Mm.
you would just I don't know.
You'd have to jump in the swimming pool or the beach or something.
Yeah, I
Take
feel
a
like that's not
shower.
how they marketed it.
They probably didn't care what the end result was for you.
That's
They
so
just wanted
funny.
to sell the product. Did you ever have spiky hair too?
Oh yeah,
Mm.
you, like like which time in my life would you like me to talk about with that?
Any at all? What made you
Uh,
happiest, like about the spiky hair?
well, I'm thinking in middle school, it wasn't really spiky hair. It was just like you'd put this nasty hair gel in your hair, and like you could
Hmm.
just tell that your hair was gelled, and that was like the cool thing. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
But like, God, today, if I were to like, you see somebody like that, I'd be like, they need to wash their hair.
Oh yeah. If I saw like that's the kind of guy that is going to hit on you at the bar that you don't want to talk to if that's what their vibe is right now. Oh,
But I think more towards high school, did I have spiky hair? I had long hair in high school. Like,
ooh, that like long emo like in your eyes, always
yeah.
in your face.
But my hair
Oh,
is so thick, it was always like not a great look. So I don't
I
know.
think you and I have the exact same like absurdly thick, very straight, very brown hair.
Well, mine's a little gray now, but yeah, I don't. I think this is like kind of on our dad's side of the family, like
Hmm.
that. I think it's coming from there, but he
Yeah.
doesn't have that anymore because,
My dad's hair didn't thin for like a long time. So I think I've got a good like I have at least another 20 years. I'm gonna guess. Like don't hold me to this, people. But I think I get all my hair vibes from my dad, and he did not go gray for a long time, and his hair stayed very thick for like at least until his 50s at least.
I have so much gray. Like I'm just
So
sorry. We're on Zoom and like I'm just looking at it in the camera. It's like right here.
it just looks like you that's just it just looks to me like that's your hair's just shorter in that spot.
Nope, that's gray hair. It is shorter.
Great.
This is bedhead
I
too.
occasionally get like one like small like gray hair, but then my husband will just take it out for me. I
Oh,
really can't see them, can't find them. But if he finds one, he's
oh, I
always one.
started graying in my mid 20s.
Fancy.
No, it's not. Yeah. So
This
Yep.
was a fun dive. This was fun.
So, yeah, we have a whole bunch more things to talk about with
Do you
nostalgia.
think this is
Like,
worth a part two?
yeah, I think we need to do part two
Oh my
because we'll
goodness.
be on here for another good hour probably if we keep talking.
Based on the list.
So, we're going to end this episode here and tune in next week for part two of nostalgia. Tell us in our
Ooh,
in our
yes.
comments and what you relate to with this, what triggers your nostalgia.
What do you want us to talk about in the next episode? We have a long list, but if there's something that like is cooler than what we've put on here, like I'd love to hear it. So you can send us a DM on our Instagram account at Cryin and Dyin. Or if you are a friend of mine or Adam's, you are welcome to just like text me or DM me, whatever. And
Definitely.
we'll get it on the list.
And to our audience that may be our parents, how insane do you think we are? Please let us know. Oh, goodness. Well, thank you so much for listening, and we will see you next week.
Have a good day, guys. Thanks for tuning in.
Bye.
Bye.
So follow if you dare, and you'll see the light shine so